Section is pretty. I don't know what the damage cost.
Really nice.
Chimney rock
And a lot.
is gone.
You're not afraid.
Wow, those are cabs I always consider way on my soul.
Yeah, because they had. It's everything on it, but yeah. How about,
And
then.
Prowler goes over.
I just- I did not see a map. Spread out the damages, I was in different places, but I was interested seeing a map of all the
Pretty
different
much
areas.
like the mountain.
Doesn't matter.
Oh,
Where-
Yeah, I was pretty.
Yeah, you got it, like, yeah.
My friend lives in the.
So when start.
Some lives in North Carolina, and they're really close.
You gotta be
together.
slow.
Dash over.
Yeah, it was affected, her own personal house was okay, but
Yeah.
people not very far.
Yeah.
Well, way back with Hurricane Hugo, our house in North Carolina.
Oh, okay. I'm listening.
We weren't there. We had just moved to California. and-
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you.
Oh, wow, yeah, it's true, there's something,
It's not bad.
there's definitely something.
Or.
I know when I lived in Jamestown, there was
Visibility.
times we'll just be sure that quite a bit of. rain.
Someone said that way.
More than that, so, but we weren't personally, I think of.
Yeah.
Not a flooding that would have occurred, there was minor.
And all of the thing, down at Lockheed. Which is in the north of- Probably.
Yeah, I was wondering about
About 80 miles. 100 miles. South of the-
Yeah.
And whenever I went there, everybody knew. This is where the high water.
Wow.
I even back then, that was probably gonna be before we just.
Sure.
hey, you guys, how's it going? It's been so long. I know, I haven't seen anybody since August. Yeah.
So. When you're, so I'm on Wavecrest,
Mm-hmm.
which has a 15-foot easement on either side.
Okay.
So is that? easement-
You mean like where the right of way is and then there's the street, there's like
is
that
there
gap?
three- There should be 15 feet. maybe
Yeah.
it's on each side.
It could be. Our streets are not built in the center of the right of way necessarily.
So. So what I was gonna ask is, from prior information, I was told that you measure from like the center of Wavecrest to the 15 feet.
That'd be logical. It doesn't always work out that way.
But the way to find out is a survey.
That's right. Yeah. So if you can find a pin somewhere, which you probably should have one because that subdivision isn't very old, right?
I've never seen a pin in the street.
Hmm. Well, it wouldn't be in the street. It would be somewhere. I mean, if you could measure out, 15 feet from that measurement that you were talking about, you might be able to find a pin somewhere on your property. So it'd probably be in the grass somewhere.
I've never been able to find it even on.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. There we go.
You measure 15 feet from the center of Wavecrest.
Mhm.
Wavecrest is 15.
Yeah.
Okay, but it is 15 feet on this.
You mean from this, like the street is 30 feet wide, so there's 15 feet from the center? Let's doodle this. So it's a circle, right? And then like that?
Yeah, straight
So you're talking about, and your house is here?
here.
Okay.
So I'm saying if I measure from the middle,
Mm-hmm.
15 feet this way,
Mm-hmm.
that would give me the easement.
That's exactly what we need.
Might not. So this is the center line of the street, right? So I don't know what the width of the street is. Most of them are like 20 something feet.
Measure that, yeah.
Yeah, it could be, okay, so let's say it's like 22 feet, right? There's also right of way right here, like what looks like sometimes your front lawn can be right of way.
I think right away and easement, that's what I'm talking.
Okay,
That's
so
the utilities. It's the
yeah.
Utility right away.
Yeah.
So I was asking, is that on both sides of Wavecrest?
usually it is.
Okay, so let's assume this is correct.
Okay.
It's 22 feet,
Mhm.
your average street, so we're gonna measure 15 feet in the center of the street that way, and that will give me the utility easement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then to build, do I go 5 feet into that?
Yeah, from wherever your property line is.
It's a side.
Yeah, if this is a side, but if it abuts a street, I don't, then it could be more. So if
More
you,
than 5 feet?
yeah, because our code says if you have a double lot frontage, something like that, like is Beach Loop Drive here?
No, it's back here. Oh, well,
Oh.
yeah, you've got it upside.
Or I'm probably doing it wrong. Okay, so, yeah,
Yeah.
so wherever your front yard is 20 feet. The other one abutting the street is 15.
Well, so there's some interesting things done
Yeah,
when my house was built that
Oh.
were actually incorrect.
oh,
Okay.
fun.
Yeah, so.
It's not a very good pen, sorry.
It's all right. It's a long rectangular.
Mhm. Okay.
There's wave cross.
Mm-hmm.
And so the person who was in the planning commission at the time did my front, side and back as if my house were on a diamond.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's how she did it.
Mm-hmm.
So then when I went to build the fence, David Crimes went, that's wrong.
Yeah. And you said,
No, I
check
said,
the file.
No, Michelle was there and he says, Michelle, you did that wrong. He said, it should have been this way.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's really weird how you want to determine where the front of my house is.
Mhm.
Because you go with the old information that's wrong, or do you now say, well, here's her house, so this is the back, this is the front, and these are the sides.
I think it's a very good question. What do you want to build?
Well, I'm gonna put a shed, well, here's what I'm doing, I'm putting a shed in this back corner.
Mm-hmm. And you want to know if it should be,
Well,
What the
I've already got
setbacks are.
I've already got the pad built, and I know there's 20 feet here, so I
Mhm.
know that. And I know that I'm a good 5 feet in from my fence.
okay,
And David Climbs told me I could have built my fence 10 feet further towards Beach.
oh, that's funny. Okay, I think this is something that we might want to do a site visit on. Or,
They told me I can't build my shed. So
yeah, well,
no, that's okay. So here's where I was
yeah.
concerned about. I'm pretty sure I have 5 feet that way.
Mhm.
And over here, I've got like 20 feet.
Yeah,
That side setback.
yeah.
And there's a fence.
Okay, well, let me look into it now that I know what you're talking about, because I know that there's a bunch of weird things in that area. I've actually pulled the files on other ones where they made, like, the planning commission agreed on something. So rather than the planner doing it, the planning commission said, this is your front, this is your back, this is your side, this is your side, these are your setbacks, and it's set in stone. So it may be something we want to do for you, even just for future owners.
David Crimes, he just said, just stay within your setbacks and everything will be okay.
Okay.
But the reason I was asking, because she had this as my front.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, my front was like,
And your front abuts a street or no?
no, that's my driveway.
Hmm,
So here's Wavecrest and here's Beach Loop.
yeah.
And so she did, this is my front, this is my back.
Oh, that's
It was-
really
It
weird.
was really screwy.
Okay,
And side. And the reason I came in, besides building the fences, I wondered if I ever remodeled.
yeah,
This is
what
actually
you
my
do.
back. I
Mhm.
could actually get 5 feet closer.
I see.
But I don't,
Yeah.
I'm not probably never gonna do that, but I
Okay.
might put an ADU unit in.
Yeah,
But right now I'm just concerned about my shed.
okay.
I want to make sure that I'm 5 feet in.
Yeah, well, the only way to know where your property line is to have a survey. I mean, there's no,
Yeah, okay.
or even just, if you can find a pin, Tim has a metal detector. He may be able to go out there and see. It depends. I mean, they're probably there, is my guess.
Yeah, well, I have a really good contractor.
Oh, good.
So John passed away now. So I'm thinking the fence is
Who was your contractor?
John Parks.
I loved him.
I
He
know.
was my neighbor when I lived down on Parkersburg.
Yeah, we all miss him still.
Oh, I do.
So I think that, so he marked, this is not the survey stakes,
Yeah.
but he staked the corners, et cetera.
Oh.
I think he did it according to setbacks. So
Mhm.
they knew where
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
not
Oh,
encroach.
definitely.
That's what I think he did.
Okay.
So that would put my fence right on this line that he
Mm-hmm.
had. And so I'm thinking that that fence is actually, I don't know, that it's on the
Hmm.
property line. It's Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm putting a shed there. Maybe
Okay.
That might cause problems, but.
Yeah, as long as it's under 200 square feet, you don't need a permit. So,
Right, it's 8 by 12.
okay.
Ms. Chair,
It's not going on.
All right, I think we need to get started. Okay. I am calling this meeting of the Planning Commission to order at 7 o'clock on October 3rd. And could you do a roll call?
Yes, I can. Commissioner Orsi. Is Commissioner Scobie on, is Catherine Scobie attending? Can you upgrade her to panelist? I'm gonna say she's present and then I will help you do that if you can't figure it out. Vice Chair Drukowski,
Here.
Commissioner Norman,
Here.
Commissioner Frey,
Here.
Commissioner Starbuck.
Here.
Perfect.
Okay, and our first order of business is election of officers. And I have told them all, I am fine with any of them wanting to do it if they would like to be chair.
It's okay, too much self-disclosure, I think, on your part. But we are gonna do the election for officers tonight rather than November, right?
If that is what you want to do, I think you can choose to do either. So I put it on the agenda for tonight if you'd like to. Every July, we're supposed to elect, or sorry, every other July. So a term is 2 years. The Planning Commission elects new chairs and vice chairs. We are down one member right now because our chair was appointed to the city council. We expect to get a new planning commissioner for our October meeting. They're going to be appointed at the Monday city council meeting. So it's up to you if you'd like to elect a chair and vice chair tonight, or if you would like to punt that to a future meeting.
I think we should proceed tonight.
I was gonna say, I don't think having a new member is going to change anything. They probably aren't going to wait.
They don't know you
Probably,
anyway.
they don't know us anyway, is right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So usually how we've done it in the past is if anyone is interested, you can self-nominate. If anyone else wants to make a nomination of another person, you can do that.
So we're talking about the chair right now, correct?
Sure, you can start with the chair.
I nominate Commissioner Jakowski.
Second,
Okay.
Do you accept?
Should
I-
we take a vote?
Well, I think I want to make sure she wants to.
Well,
I was gonna say, I'm gonna nominate Don, but, that's up to him whether or not he prefer to do it.
I will do it if nobody else wants to.
I would love to just stay vice if you're willing, but if you all want someone else as vice, that's fine too. I would like to nominate Don Starbuck as chair. So how do we do this?
I mean, I think how we've done it in the past is we sort of just have an open discussion and then someone nominates. And if everyone wants to, but we can vote on either of them. So if you don't want to be chair, you don't have to be voluntold to do it. So if you'd have to get a second on your nomination, I think.
can I second again?
Sure thing. Okay.
I'll second the nomination.
Perfect. And then, so Don is interested. He's okay with being the chair. So then I think we do take a roll call vote on that one. So Commissioner Orsi? Oh, no. It would be to be voting for Commissioner Starbuck to become the chair. Are you a yes or a no? Commissioner Scobie,
Yes.
Vice Chair Drukowski,
Yes,
Commissioner Norman,
Why not?
Commissioner Frey,
Yes,
and Don accepts.
Under duress.
And then we do need a vice chair. So,
I'll nominate myself if I can do that.
okay, perfect. All right. So Sally as vice chair. So Commissioner Orsi, Commissioner Scobie. We'll get back to her. Vice Chair Drukowski, do you accept? Yes. Commissioner Norman,
Yes.
Commissioner Frey,
yes.
Commissioner Starbuck.
Yes.
Perfect. So we've got a new.
And I vote yes as well, sorry.
Oh, thanks, Catherine.
gonna
Thank
say-
you. Perfect. So Don can assume the position.
Yeah,
And
you have
Sally
to
can-
leave that seat, Don.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and I left you the. Thank you.
And we don't have to get a new nameplate for you. That's nice.
I know, it's, I'm so much about making it easier for you.
I'm going to get even with you somehow.
Remember, Chair, we're here to have fun.
Right. Uh-huh.
All right. Thank you, Chair Starbuck.
All right, moving along, consent agenda. Need a motion to approve?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second it.
Motion approved and I seconded. Vote.
I think you can do all in favor, right, on this one?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Perfect.
Introduction of rare AmeriCorps member.
Yeah, so we have our new rare AmeriCorps member who started. Her name is Solon DeCrozic. RARE stands for Resource Assistance for Rural Environments. It's a program of the University of Oregon. So she's an AmeriCorps member who's serving here as a planner over the next, I guess at this point it's 10 months. I'm going to invite her up if she feels okay to tell you a little bit about herself and then maybe share about the projects that you're going to be working on over the next year. And to turn it on, just push it to the.
Testing. Okay, it's on. Hi, I'm Solwyn. I just graduated from the University of Oregon with a degree in planning, public policy, and management, and a minor in environmental studies. I really like transportation and bikes and non-car centric transportation. I'm from the Valley, so I grew up in Salem and Woodburn. Really excited to be on the coast, and I am working on a couple of projects. I'm doing an architectural review overlay zone update for Old Town. I'm working on updating the citizen involvement plan to have better two-way communication between citizens and planners. I'm also helping to do a parks master plan for City Park and assisting the Great Abandon Association with their economic development and whatever else the city can throw at me.
Wonderful.
I think that's it.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Welcome.
So she'll certainly be engaging with you through the CCI. She's got one of the first things she's working on is, or has lined up, is a meeting with the Goal One planner at DLCD to learn more about what a citizen involvement program is. And she's currently working on her work program over the next year. So we'll have some ideas for how she'll engage with you and our community.
So housing's a big issue in town, as you know. So did you find some place to live? Are you in a camping spot or?
But I'm living in Langlois because Dana knows someone who has an apartment in their house. And so that is how I live in the house.
That was part of the deal, huh?
That I received housing because it was given to be really close to becoming after child.
Right.
It was really a fortunate event too. I was texting with her saying, did you find anything yet? And right after that text got sent, a friend of mine said, do you know anyone who's looking for housing? I said, the universe provides. So it really worked out. But it was hard. I mean, it was trying to find housing for someone on an AmeriCorps salary was a good exercise in trying to figure out who is able to live in Bandon proper. It's definitely more challenging. There wasn't a lot available. So we're lucky to have her, and we'll have her at meetings as needed over the next year.
So just out of curiosity, how many rare candidates does U of O typically have per year?
You might know the answer to that. Like, how many people are in your cohort?
I remember that there are 11 returning rares, so they're serving for a second year, which speaks to the success of the program and the quality of the program. If you actually want to come back for the second year, and I think that just under 30,
Yeah, and I can give you a little more background on the program because actually when I came here, I was a rare. That's how I landed in Bandon. And so it's a program out of the University of Oregon that places kind of like post-grad students. So you have to have a minimum of a bachelor's degree to participate in the program. And they sort of align you with rural communities that need the assistance. So there's like a two-way interview process. So we interviewed 5 candidates. Solon actually interviewed with 5 other communities or programs. And then they align based on how you rank each other. And programs can range from the sort of community regional planning stuff that we're doing here to tourism, food systems, environmental work. So they kind of reach all over the state of Oregon and serve all sorts of different roles that are needed. So it's really great to be selected as a community to participate in this. And we feel really lucky to get someone as qualified as Solon in the position. But yeah, if you want to learn more, they've got a really great webpage with more information about how the program works.
So do you have a plan afoot to have a rare every year?
Well, it's not that kind of program. They don't, the way that AmeriCorps works is they can't fill a position that should be filled by like a full-time employee. So it has to be sort of time limited. So the tasks that she's got can all be completed within the next year. We would love to have a rare every year. And certainly there are some places that, that apply often and can sort of get them somewhat often. Bandon's been lucky. I served in 2016, 2017. We had another rare in our community serving at the Greater Bandon Association just a couple years ago. And then Travel Southern Oregon Coast, which is based out of Bandon Dunes, had a rare for 2 years during that same sort of 2021 timeframe. So the area gets rares actually pretty often. But City Hall, this is our third rare at City Hall.
So it doesn't have to be a governmental entity. It could just, it could be a private nonprofit or hypothetically a private for-profit. Is that right?
I don't know if it can be a for-profit, but definitely nonprofits, government entities like Travel Oregon gets a bunch of them. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the other positions are that are out there, but they're to serve rural environments. So they're mostly nonprofits and other places that have a need.
Get justified with specific projects that you define.
Yes, yeah. So when we applied, we had to have a list of what we wanted them to work on. We sort of also had to apply to the program. They had to select our projects and our pitch for what we were going to have them do. And then they do the same thing. The applicants apply to the program with all their skills, and then they try to align you that way. So if there's another project that comes up in the future that is like sort of time limited, I think it's a great way to get assistance to our community and qualified people working here. The other benefit of it is rares are only, it costs $26,000. That's what we had to pay to get her here. We were fortunate to get a $5,000 grant from the Ford Family Foundation and a $5,000 grant from the Bandon Dunes Charitable Foundation. So it only cost us $16,000 to have a full-time employee for a year. So that's pretty good bang for your buck. They receive health insurance through the University of Oregon and they're paid through the University of Oregon. So there's no impact to our other administrative functions here. So it's really great.
So the goal is to get $50,000 worth of work out of her.
That's right.
Yeah, okay,
Milk every penny. No, just kidding.
got it.
Hey, speaking of housing,
Mhm.
what do we hear about Dormy?
Oh, about dormy house development?
Dormy, yeah, the one working with the city and the school district?
Yeah, the city's still working with them on the site plan and concepts for some of the housing that's going to be out
What's
there.
taking so long with the concepts? I thought they came with concepts ready. It seems like we're,
Oh, no, the way that when we originally did the RFP, they sort of just had the broad idea of what they could do on this site. And now we're working through more of the like design or what the actual layout of the property might look like. So I think we're right on track. I believe a contract was signed, and so there's certain milestones that they have to meet, and I believe we're on time with all of those.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
And we leave the rest of this for staff update.
Sure thing.
All right, moving along. Public comments, comments from the public on any item not on the agenda, limited to 5 minutes each. Anybody wish to make a public comment? Come forward.
I Thanks. There. Is this on? My name is Kim Consul and I live at 54914 Harrison Road, which is in the donut hole. And I provided each of you with a copy of a statement that is about a survey that I did.
Yep.
Regarding the master plan and annexation of the donut hole. I plan to read it, but it's too long and I already read it in front of the city council, so I didn't want to be redundant. So I'm just asking the commission members to please read it and enter this into the meeting record. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. No public hearing, so staff update.
Well, we haven't met in quite some time, so I've got a list of updates here for you, but if I have forgotten anything since we haven't talked since August, please feel free to ask questions. The first thing that I wanted to update you on is the FEMA BIOP. So for those of you who didn't see the presentation that we gave to the city council last month, the rules in the floodplain are changing. I think we've talked about this just a little bit. What happened was FEMA, I'll give you my best recollection of the history here, but FEMA was sued by an entity claiming that the way that we regulate floodplains in Oregon has a negative impact on endangered species because they're a federal program that triggered a requirement to prepare what's called a biological opinion. It's a document that describes the biological impact on any habitats of endangered species. The biological opinion resulted in a jeopardy decision, which means that yes, the floodplain regulations do negatively impact those endangered species, and FEMA is required by law to take action. So what they have been working on with the state is some model code language for cities to adopt in response to this. My understanding is that the implementation of this program was originally slated for 2027, but because of the impact that it's having on endangered species, they're requiring that cities adopt what's called pre-implementation compliance measures, which is we're calling PICMs. The city has 3 choices for PICMs. One would be a moratorium on all new development in the floodplain, or just all development in general there. A case-by-case assessment where we look at the impact of a specific project on the habitat of endangered species, or adoption of this model code that requires no new net impact or no net loss to any habitat functionality. The city has to make a decision on which of those 3 options we're going to choose by December 1st. We have to report to FEMA about how we're going to do that implementation by the middle of January, and we have to have it actually implemented by the end of June. We then will have that in place for 2 years before we figure out what the final requirement is. We also have to start reporting, which we haven't gotten really any information on, so I can't tell you what reporting means other than we're going to have to do it by the end of January. So it is a pretty major change, you might know, but all of Old Town is in the floodplain. The entire jetty is in the floodplain, and then we do have some other properties that are affected by this ordinance amendment. We have as staff attended a couple just sort of like FEMA training-ish things, sort of explaining what's going on to us. Those have resulted in many planners throughout Oregon being very concerned about the changes for multiple reasons. One, the impact on just economic development in downtowns that are affected by this. 2, the adoption or the application of clear and objective standards for housing. It seems that the model code that's been developed doesn't actually have a relationship with that clear and objective standard. And the fast pace of the process. So we were asked to pick an option before we even saw what the model code language said. So it's just coming sort of rapidly at us, and we haven't really been able to fully grasp it. Shayla and I are attending a land use law seminar in December that's got a session on it. So we are hoping to learn more there, but the legal implications of the changes.
So what was the entity that filed suit?
I believe it was the Audubon Society.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I can send you some more information if this is of interest to you. I've been meaning to put speaking of the website, putting something up on the website with more information because it is pretty complicated. But I believe the origin of the lawsuit was related to salmon species. So it really affects places in Oregon that have a salmon species in a river that is in a floodplain. But I believe that the BIOP actually said that there's a negative impact on like 30 endangered species. So it ended up being a little bit larger than the original lawsuit. Excuse me.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions about that one? Because that will come to you in the future. It's a development code chapter, so the Planning Commission will be involved in that. Okay, the second update on my list is just Gravel Point. So I believe we updated you via email. Sorry, I'm talking too much. Gravel Point was at Luba and was remanded back to us. The remand was on a very specific, a sub-assignment of error about the way that we process street vacations. So in our comprehensive plan, we have a requirement that when we look at street vacations, we consider the impacts to wildlife corridors, utilities, a couple other things, which we almost always do during that public hearing before the city council. Because we did not do that in the public hearings that we held as part of their conditional use permit. We are required to in some way address that either now or at a later time. So we're figuring out internally how best to approach it from here on out, but we will have to either, I think the terminology is do some sort of order amendment for that change to occur.
But at least the major things like water and everything were fine.
That's right.
And so you would anticipate this goes back before the city council, correct?
That's where I don't, I'm waiting for some lawyers to tell me what the process is. I haven't done a remand like this before to understand how it is we actually process it. But the correction that we have to make is we somehow have to address those comprehensive plan policies in the street vacation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about Gravel Point? Okay, I'll just make one more note on Gravel Point is that they also submitted a geologic assessment review, which staff has been reviewing. We had an open public comment period that closed yesterday, and we only received one public comment. So we will be issuing a decision in the next week or two about the geologic assessment review. That is under the pending land use decisions that you might not be able to see right now. Any questions?
So we have one public opinion that's been submitted.
That's right. And I mean,
Because no one else can find the,
well, we do actually send you like the link to the city's website. Hopefully it worked. I've been able to get on the website. So I was gonna actually, when we talk about the website, have Solon pull it up and just see if we can all navigate together. And maybe you guys could tell me what is or isn't working for you so that we can try to fix it. But yeah.
Any other comments? Okay, move on.
The city council heard an appeal of a planning department decision. This was a project where they were requesting to build a single family dwelling on the jetty on a property that was affected by floodplain, shoreland overlay, beaches and dunes, geologic hazard overlay zone. The applicant, during our completeness review, we let them know that they were in a hazard overlay zone. They did not submit a geotech report. They wrote back saying they did not want to submit a geotech report or refused to because they believed it did not apply to them. We denied their request. They appealed to the city council. And the city council ultimately also denied their request. So they, sorry, I've got something in my throat. They have the ability to appeal to LUBA. I believe there's a few days left in the appeal period and we haven't heard anything yet. Any questions on that one?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
The tribe, when there's construction, the tribe always is consulted. Is that correct? If the ground's going to be.
Yes, that's correct. Anytime there's a proposed ground disturbance, the city's intergovernmental agreement with them states that we're required to, or sorry, it's a memorandum of understanding. We are required to notify them of any proposed ground disturbance and they comment on what is required at that site. So
the city, as part of the process, notifies the tribe for their review.
we do during zoning compliance and subdivisions and conditional use permits.
They even needed to be consulted when my cable from my neighbors had
That's
to go
right.
to my house. And it was during COVID and there's a little delay, but I mean, it eventually got done. So I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing that they're consulted.
Yeah.
The port has to do the same thing. And when they do any kind of disturbance at all, they usually have a tribal member on site.
To monitor. And did the tribe did not authorize the jetty development that was denied, is that correct?
So this, for this project, they were not notified. The applicant, as part of the geologic assessment review, is required to provide proof of consultation ahead
So
of
it's
time.
up to the applicant to contact the tribe in this case.
Yes.
if It failed to do so.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, and we, the feedback that I've gotten from the tribe about this sort of earlier than we would normally consult, because we would consult before the ground disturbance.
Right.
There are times when there may be resources out there that would affect the design of a project, and so it's important to do that consultation earlier so that you're not building somewhere that the tribe doesn't want to be
Right.
building. So we do sometimes in some situations try to push that consultation earlier than the phase at which they've got building plans and they're sort of more ready to go.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else on that one? Okay, grants. So we did apply for a grant to do a master plan for the donut hole. Unfortunately, we found out we were unsuccessful in that grant request. I have scheduled a meeting with the person at the Transportation and Growth Management Department who is in our region to get a little bit of feedback about why we were unsuccessful in that grant. My guess is that we did have quite a few members from the public submit comments to TGM in opposition to that grant application, which I assume did not make us look very favorable. I do want to clarify though, since there was a public comment made about this, that the grant request was for a master plan for the donut hole. It didn't mean that any implementation was going to happen, but that as people want to annex, we would like to have a plan for what that looks like. There was no plan for annexation. That's not what this was about, but really the opposite, about having a plan for when those folks do want to annex. So
May I ask a question in regards to, isn't the donut hole considered an urban growth?
that's correct.
So doesn't the state have some say in, like if we needed to provide housing, don't they have some say in that?
Yeah, so how the urban growth boundary works is that either property owners can petition the city to annex or the city can annex property. If we want to annex that property, there has to be there's a few different ways to do it, and I'm not incredibly knowledgeable about the details, but you have to have like a majority of property owners within that area annex, or a certain number of electors, or a certain property value, and that part, like I couldn't share with you tonight what the details are. I just know there's different ways to do it. My understanding of the policy of the city of Bandon is we don't annex people that don't want to be annexed. So we have really only taken in properties where people have approached us and that the annexation benefits us in some way. And so we will take on the application for annexation, or individual property owners petition the city for that.
That's fine. I just wasn't sure
Yeah.
whether or not because of the housing shortage, if the state had more authority than I thought.
No, and I mean, I think that's what makes the, like when we do exercises like housing needs analyses, like our urban growth boundary, we have lots of land available for housing, but it doesn't mean that the people who own that land want to develop housing or bring it into the city.
Right.
So we can't expand our urban growth boundary until there's a need for more land to develop that housing. That's really the time that the state gets involved. The land that's already within our urban growth boundary, the city has, the right, I guess, to annex that property. It's already sort of been designated as, from the state, as land that's appropriate for future development.
So during the Gravel Point application process, one of the items they tried to do to sell the project was workforce housing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is in the donut hole, correct?
No, the site that they had, at least listed on the site plan that I saw, that site is inside city limits. That's the 30 acres south of City Park.
Okay,
Yeah,
I had understood it was in the donut hole, but all right.
they do own other property in the donut hole, is adjacent to the Gravel Point project.
Okay,
So they could request at some point to be.
The annexation, yes. Yeah, so you can request to be annexed to the city if you are currently contiguous to city limits. So if you're in the center of the donut hole and there's nothing touching you, you can't annex into the city. You have to be already adjacent to it.
No little islands.
That's right. I mean, there is such a thing called a cherry stem where you annex a street and then that lot, but we try to avoid that because then it looks weird.
Sure.
And it looks weirder than the donut hole and it's hard to serve them. Usually people who are being annexed want access to city water or sewer or some
Sure.
sort of utility. That's only really possible to get to them when they're close to an existing main line.
So, you can tell me you don't want to talk about this anymore, if you prefer, but
Not at all.
the documents submitted by this, woman, she's Orso. She's indicating that in her own personal survey, there isn't anybody in the donut hole that wants to be annexed into the city. And so were that to be true, what would the city do in that case?
I mean, like I said, our policy has been that we don't annex people that don't want to be annexed.
Right.
So we would just utilize the land that we already have inside city limits
Is
to
that
meet our
written
housing.
policy or historic
Mm.
policy?
I think that's just like historical policy. That's just what's been expressed to me from the city council over the years.
So where did the idea of the master plan for the donut hole come from? What?
We have had people come in and express interest in being annexed to the donut hole. I haven't read this letter, but I believe her survey excluded certain properties along the boundary of the donut hole, along Highway 101 and then along that area of Carter. And also because we've entertained conversations like this and we've talked about how, we want to have a street that went through the donut hole during the gravel point process. You can't do that unless you have a plan for how you're going to do it. So that was one component. The gravel point project really sort of brought up the need to have a plan for what future development looks like there. The other component is the financial cost. So what the city had pitched as the match for this project was doing some sort of economic impact analysis to determine, is annexation good for us? Is it bad for us? What's it going to cost us to do this sort of thing? Should we even consider it? And that's because someone can petition us to annex and we can say no, because one of the components in the annexation request is a fiscal impact analysis that they have to provide to the city about what the impact of annexation is for that individual property. My personal feeling is it could be kind of challenging to make the case that that the city is positively benefiting from annexation when we have a structural deficit in our budget. Every new utility customer, we're losing more money. And so we wanted to get an idea of what it's going to cost us to do infrastructure improvements, to maintain city streets, to take on new utility customers. So it's a planning exercise to determine, is this smart for us or what do we need to do to make it smart for us?
Right.
Because we know we need housing. We know we're going to grow. That's an inevitable sort of change in life. And so it would be a sort of roadmap to get there.
Putting new infrastructure in the ground is not cheap.
Right. I understand that. I'm just trying to get
Yeah.
for the lay of the.
Why did we
land.
do this?
As the donut hole comes up periodically, right? For
Mhm.
example, we had a gentleman in here a couple months ago who he wanted to get a road vacated, I think to address a problem with homeless people. And went to the county and the county referred him to didn't refer him to the city, but they talked to you, I think.
Mhm.
And he was of a mind that somehow the city abandoned, put a kibosh on that idea. somehow.
We comment on requests for street vacations inside our urban growth boundary. Frequently, what we say is we would like to keep those open and available for future utility construction and street construction, because once that street is gone, it's really hard to get it back.
Right.
Yeah. So we don't make the decision on those, the county does, but they do allow us the opportunity to comment on those. And that's been, we've been saying yes to any sort of alley vacations because those don't serve much of a purpose, but streets we'd prefer to keep until such a time that the city council has the ability to use our comprehensive plan policies to figure out, do we need this or not?
Right.
But it's good to have access.
A good case in point would be the extension of Baltimore into 20th,
Mhm.
where they were talking about doing the workforce housing there,
Yeah.
because it's not used at that end. And it'd be an extension. That's where all the services are.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, so if we vacated that 20 years ago, what would we do now when we need water
Or sewer.
or sewer? Yeah, same
So,
thing.
so off the top of your head, do you have a sense of how many landowners there are in the donut hole?
You know, I don't. I know a few years ago when we were originally talking about the Gorse, like having a Gorse program, there was some survey work done of all the individual property owners in the donut hole. So Jason may have that information and I can try to get that for you next time. But I don't know.
And I'm asking these questions just because during my first 3 years on this commission, I never even heard about the donut hole. And then all of a sudden, it seems to keep coming up from different directions.
Mhm.
And so that's why I'm asking the questions I am.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's a really good point because it's not inside city limits. We don't talk about it that much. And I think prior to 2018, we didn't have a whole lot of pressure to do any more development. My experience in the planning department is we just consistently have people coming in who are saying, wow, there's not really a lot for sale right now, or there aren't really that many lots available. And I think that number dwindles every year, right? So people are going to start looking elsewhere. I think if you look at the number of building permits in the donut hole too, there's a lot of construction happening out there. So people are looking for places to live around Bandon. So that's why it's come up more often, is that it seems like the most logical place for the city to grow next. And it's also listed in our comprehensive plan as our #1 area. Priority area for annexation for the reason of it's mostly zoned residential. So some of the other areas in town, like the airport is in our urban growth boundary. That's zoned industrial. We have some other land on the east side of Highway 101 that is, some of it's residential, some of it's commercial, and some of it's light industrial. But the donut hole is sort of that residential spot, or the most logical spot, I think, where residential development goes.
Just
Yeah.
around me, I can count about 15 people, 15 houses in the donut hole, right where I am.
Okay. And yet, and it sounds like there's some construction that's going on in
Well,
there.
there's a lot of construction going on,
It-
especially along Edna and back in there.
Yeah. So it could change at some point.
And there's construction going on around my place.
Mm-hmm.
There's, well, the one house that Robert put in, and there's another lot that's being developed, and further on down, there's another lot that's being developed. So yeah, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of activity back there.
Mhm. And at the same time, if an owner wants utilities through the city of Bandon, that's a no now?
Well, inside the urban growth boundary, we generally don't extend city utilities to to people outside of the city limits, with the exception of there's water throughout Sunset City. There were a series of main lines that were extended there, I believe in the 90s, and then electricity. But I believe by law, we're not allowed to extend our sewer outside of city limits, and definitely not outside of the urban growth boundary.
In my case, the house that I'm in, the people that moved there prior to me, when they developed that lot, they petitioned for city water. The proviso on that was they get city water, but they cannot voice an opinion against annexation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's grandfathered to me. So I cannot say anything about annexation to the city if it comes to a vote. All right. But for myself, I'm on a septic system and I like it. It's a lot cheaper than the sewer system for the city.
Right, right. And then I assume there's some people in there that are on cisterns and stuff?
They drill wells.
Okay,
They have wells and then they have their septic system.
okay,
And they may have electricity or they may be off the grid. I have electricity from the city, so I have city water and electricity, but the sewer system is mine.
mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
It's quite the little patchwork out there.
It is very interesting. You know, and when I mean, I haven't even been here that long, but when I got here in 2016, I remember trying to bike through there and it was just a series of dead ends. But it seems like now we drove through somewhat recently and those roads are starting to be connected, but they're all just gravel roads.
When Gravel
So-
Point came in and started clearing out the gorse,
Yeah.
they opened up several of those pathways.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to walk back in there.
Mm-hmm.
And for myself, I would not like to see it developed any further than it is, which it's happening.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions on that grant application? Okay, we probably will reapply next year. So if you have any feedback for me, let me know. The other grant that we applied for is the pathway along Beach Loop Drive. We did find out that we passed the first round, yay. So they accepted our pre-application. We've been selected to submit a full application, which will open on November 1st. If anyone wants to write letters in support of that application, I would not be sad about it. I think my experience is that the more community input that you have from people who want to see projects happen, the greater chance you have of getting the funding.
Will you explain to me, because I'm not remembering, are you talking sidewalks? What are you talking?
Yeah, so what our proposal is to do a pathway, which is a place where people could ride bikes or walk. So it'd be 10 to 12 foot wide path. The path would be on kind of going back and forth on the west side or the east side with crosswalks in between. We hope to keep it as continuous as possible, but there are some conflicts that we have to avoid. The somewhat unfortunate thing, I think, is that there's just conflicts on both sides. So we're just trying to avoid the worst ones or the most expensive ones where we can. So yeah, I'm happy to share with you some images that we have that we submitted as part of our pre-application. So you can see what that would look like. And that's a good reminder for me to update the website with that information as well. Thanks.
I'm sorry, you said 12 feet, Dana?
Yeah, I believe it goes back and there's some areas where it's a little narrower, but 12 feet,
I
yeah.
mean, I was trying to think right now, the paths on either side of Beach Loop are what, about 3 feet wide?
I think so. So it'd be pretty wide in some areas.
yeah.
Yeah. Definitely wide enough. We did have some concerns. We've done some public outreach, both surveys, and we had a public outreach event here. And some people were really concerned about bikes traveling in two directions next to people with strollers or sidewalks or walking or dogs. But I think the pathway is actually wide enough that you should be able to accommodate all of those users without feeling uncomfortable, which is kind of nice, right? You could bike with your friends side by side and still have room. So yeah, we're hopeful for that. So I will keep you in the loop on our application on that one. The only other thing that I have to update you on is the website. So we did do an email. So everyone's email at City Hall did change. We're now at bandon-or.gov. That was in an effort to increase security and not be hacked. Hopefully it works. And then we did do a website update recently. We changed our provider from, I believe it was MuniCode, and now it is Civic Plus. It sounds like we've had some issues with it. I didn't know how much had changed on the public facing end versus the back facing end, but do you want to share what you shared with us via email so we can maybe go through
Oh,
it?
sure. The navigation to pending land use
Yeah,
is not working.
is not working. So can you pull up?
It worked once for me.
Oh, good.
But to get to it, I had to back in off the calendar and anyway,
Huh.
and I can't do that any longer. So
Okay,
if we go to your government
yeah.
and planning, and then land use decisions and pending land use decisions. So when,
Yeah, okay, so it shows up here, but I was also having.
wait. I don't
trouble.
think it does. I think this is obsolete. I think that's the issue. See the date up on
Yes.
top and then see what's on the
You,
decision is all old items.
you're totally right.
So if you scroll down and then it ends with a Beach Loop VRD permit
Hmm,
or a Lincoln Avenue one. Yeah. So that's the issue. And at one time, once I was able to get into the current correct pending land use, but I haven't been able to duplicate that navigation, but it wasn't direct like this. I had to go into calendar and back.
Mhm.
So it wasn't working right, but I just happened to hit it.
Yeah, okay, well, I appreciate you bringing this up because I've also been having problems, and that's the reason why, for those of you listening, we had to cancel our public hearing tonight. We did upload the notice to the city's website, but we had the same problem where it reverted back to an older notice. So we rescheduled it. Hopefully everyone got the notification today that it'll be October 24th, but I will go ahead and look into that. Our city recorder is responsible for the website, so I will pass this along to her and see if she can work with those folks to figure out what's causing those navigation problems.
Thank you.
Yeah, I am sorry to everyone in the public who we directed to the website and then they said, where is it? Fortunately, I will say that the search function is still working. So a lot of things that we were trying to link to this pending land use decisions page, it won't link, but the page is still there. So if you search Gravel Point GAR, the page shows up on that search bar. So we know that we've done something right at some point, but it's just not sticking. Like whatever they're doing, they're like reverting it back to an older version. So hopefully if there's something you're trying to find, you can still find it using the search bar, but I will make sure that that's
But
fixed.
if we didn't know what was pending,
Agreed, yeah, but you might have gotten a notice in the mail, so hopefully because we send notices out in the mail of all of these things, so if someone was in the noticing area, then they would be able to at least search that on the city's website. But you're right, for the average person, they don't know what's going on if they can't see it.
or the planning commission.
I mean, I agree,
I'm harassing you, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I feel like we deserve it. The website update is what I would call, from New Jersey, we call it a hot mess express.
Mhm.
So.
Hot mess, yeah. So, are you feeling fairly confident that, we'll actually have a hearing on October 24th?
You know, at this point, no. I think we were supposed to have one in August and then this time. And so, I mean, I would like to remain serious on that one and say, I believe we will, but I did send the notice out. So please tell me, for those of you who receive newsletters and notices, if it didn't come through. Good. Okay. So
I got it.
I think that worked, and I will now that I know it's not working, I'll check more vigilantly to make sure it's still the right notice. So hopefully. Anything else that I missed?
I'm wondering if you had an opinion of the drone pamphlet?
Yes, I liked it, and I'm sorry, I forgot. I'm supposed to bring that to the city manager. So let me get him to approve it, and I will put that on your October 24th meeting.
Perfect, because Fish and Wildlife, the local one, was very helpful, and I did CC him, but,
Okay.
and he did respond that he got it, but he didn't really give me an opinion, and I didn't feel like I was the person to press him for that.
Sure. Okay. So I will look into that. I'll make a note to go check back. And just as a reminder, the drone pamphlet was the idea that we had about vacation rentals being required to have some sort of pamphlet in the rental itself for folks who are visiting, so that they know what is and is not allowed with drone use in Bandon.
Speaking of drones,
Yes.
last week I ran into somebody who was flying a drone over Table Rock. And I politely pointed out that he shouldn't be doing that. And then I walked down to the South Jetty, which is where I started, and looked around for any signs that might say,
Oh,
and that's one location that I don't think we have any signs.
I think you're probably right. I've seen him in the other
I
places.
even looked
too.
at the cul-de-sac on Madison. And I might have missed it,
no.
Jetty, but
I think that's probably because all the other parks are state parks or
Right.
federal land, and Jetty Park is owned by the city of
Yeah.
Bandon. So I will make a note about that one too. I'm not sure. I don't know what the city's policy has been about drone use, like on our personal property or signing.
but that's a point of entry for people who are gonna go
Yeah.
outside into the other areas.
Mhm. It's a good point. Yeah, and we might be able to just get a sign from US Fish and Wildlife or whoever
Yeah.
makes the signs.
Not just the jetty, but that little path that goes down, that goes in from Madison.
Yeah.
at-
Oh.
at
Yeah,
the
that-
cul-de-sac.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's where I was coming out that day,
Okay.
so I looked there.
I believe
we were
that
parked
path is
illegally,
private
but-
property, so we probably won't sign that one. I don't think that's owned by the city of Bandon.
Couldn't, you-
Yeah,
why couldn't you post a sign on city property at the entrance to the?
well, we don't necessarily want to encourage people to use private property if it's not a if it's not a public entrance. I'll have to look.
That is private property. I've looked it up once.
I know, I'm trying to remember back to our public access inventory, but I
It is a
feel like,
Public access inventory.
oh, is it? Okay, good,
Pretty
because
sure
I feel like we looked it up and I remember saying, oh, I've used that before, and I feel like that's private, but I'll double check. But I can certainly talk with the city manager about getting one at the parking area at the jetty.
That'd be great.
Anything else?
And we're feeling very confident about our scheduled meetings for November and December. Is that right?
That's on our agenda for October. We can talk about it now briefly. So we normally reschedule the November meeting to the meeting before Thanksgiving, so the one earlier, and we can just go ahead and do that if you feel comfortable. I can have June.
21st of November?
Is that the date? I trust you.
Don't trust me.
Here, I'll,
Okay, it's usually the Thursday before Thanksgiving,
Look at
so.
our Phones.
It's the 24th, actually. No,
That would be, is that Thanksgiving?
Yeah, we definitely don't
Yeah.
want that.
Yeah, okay, so that's, I think if you guys are okay with that, then we'll just move it to the week before. November.
so would it be November 21st?
Yes, it would
That,
be
the 21st, okay,
Would be December 19th?
19th.
yeah. Okay. And then if we don't have any items, do you want to still have a meeting or not? That's usually the question in December. I think in November, I mean, my guess is that we'll continue the code cleanup hearing, but, so we
Now,
can,
why don't we see what happens in November?
okay, that works, and we'll keep that one with an asterisk. All right,
What's the, since this has been dragging on for a while, what's the current scenario for the code cleanup? In other words, so we're gonna have a meeting on October, a public meeting,
that's right,
Hearing.
hearing.
okay? And then where does it go?
So it depends on if you make a decision that night. If you like it, you can pass it on to the city council. If you only like parts of it, you can pass parts of it along to the city council. You get to make that decision. Once you've reviewed it and heard any of the public testimony, then the city council also holds a public hearing on it. And then they make a decision to either adopt an ordinance or not. And then that ordinance has to be read into public meetings.
So if we were to pass all or part to the city council at our October meeting, would it be on the November? No.
Have it scheduled for the December meeting.
And then it will be, and then there'll be a public hearing. Would the public hearing be in December?
That's right, yeah. So you would have your public hearing if you agree, let's say you have a part of it or all of it that you want to pass on to them, then that would go to them. They'd hold a public hearing. Then they usually direct the staff to draft an ordinance, which comes back at the following meeting. And then our rule is that if there's a if there is all of the city councilors present and they vote unanimously, they can do those two readings in one night. If not everyone is there, or they don't vote unanimously, that vote happens over two separate meetings.
So the earliest that the code or part of the code cleanup could be enacted would be January of next year.
That's right.
It's the earliest.
I think that's, yes,
Okay, thank you.
yes, of course.
And at this point, we're not concerned about changes to floodplain development in the code cleanup. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, we're not going to do that in the code cleanup. That's going to be all on its own. And that is sort of like we're required to do that. So we have to pretty much do what FEMA tells us to do. It's called voluntary compliance.
Yeah.
Which is-
Volunteering is important
Yes, that's right.
in the military as well.
Yes.
I find it interesting that they're concerned about wildlife things. I think it's great. I'm not saying I have a problem with that. But they're not concerned about the fact that people have houses on the floodplain and they're getting wiped out.
Oh, I think they are worried about
But
the
have they
houses
changed
too.
anything
So this.
federally for everybody, every state?
No, they
That's-
haven't. Yeah, but well, and I shouldn't say, we haven't done an update to it since 2018. I believe in 2018 it did become slightly more restrictive. And then there was another model code update that was done later that we weren't legally obligated to do, but that code was, I think, even a little bit tighter than that. So it's becoming more and more restrictive. If you want to look at I think a very interesting exercise, DLCD put together a map that shows the coastal flooding expected over the next 70 years, I think about, or 75 years, due to sea level rise. And the chances of flooding for all of Old Town and the jetty go up to about, like, every other year it will be flooded by 2100. So, I mean, I think the things that they're doing now are trying to anticipate those changes that are going to be here.
Well,
Yeah,
that's sensible, and that's only if they're actually accurate, because it could occur sooner.
Oh,
And I'm not
totally.
trying to be pessimistic, but
Yeah.
it
nope,
seems like it's
absolutely.
a little critical.
Yeah.
But 70 years is a long way. I mean, any talk about what the sea level rise is going to be in the next 5 years?
Oh, yeah. So they actually have in the model, and I can show this to you next time if you want to see it. I think it's pretty
Sure.
interesting. You can look at 2030, 2050, and then 2100. So you can see what at least projected based on models, what it looks like over that time period.
Right.
So it's not as it definitely is like a slow creep, but it seems like at some point it's just like, wow, we were looking at the map and it's all of Old Town and all of the jetty that's going to see pretty frequent flooding events.
I mean, when you look at what's happening in Florida, Texas,
Mhm.
Louisiana, and they keep on just building seawalls
Mm-hmm.
and developing,
Mm-hmm.
which makes no sense whatsoever.
That's why when I thought they did the FEMA change, I was thinking more in terms of sea level rise instead of
It has the same end effect, if that makes sense, like the preventing development in the
but
floodplain.
that's only happening in Oregon, you're telling me.
Yes, but I believe that our change was also triggered from a similar lawsuit that happened in Washington. So it may be just a matter of time before.
The East Coast, you and I know.
Yeah, yes. It may be that it's going to cascade across other
I-
states. I couldn't say.
Makes sense.
But it's definitely, I think for Bandon, I find it to be most interesting because in a lot of the other maps that I've seen of other cities, the floodplain is affecting agriculture lands and some housing areas, but there's very few cities where the entire downtown economic district is affected by the floodplain. And so I think for Bandon, that's going to be a really challenging conversation to have about what happens to Old Town.
I'm gonna say some people might want to think about moving their businesses a little bit.
Well, you
Yeah.
just put them on higher piers.
There you go. Everything will just be 10 feet in the air.
Well, they do require in Hawaii and Kauai, they require, I think, the people that I met 2 years ago said they had to have 16-foot pillars
Oh, wow.
for their house to be built.
Yeah. It's possible. So I will keep you all in the loop on that one as we learn more.
And you consider most of Old Town is on pillars already.
Mm-hmm. And built on fill, right?
Yeah,
So,
you could look at it the same way I do, is just organized piles of kindling.
so positive.
Yeah, probably vulnerable to fire.
All right, open discussion.
Congratulations, Don.
Thank you for being willing to serve, Don.
Thank you for being our new chair.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And don't get even too badly, please.
Anything else?
Yes. Please. How many people are on Zoom? You tell. One, and then Catherine as a participant. Wow, okay. Not very big turnout for a speaker. That's okay. Thank you, everyone, for attending that did attend. All 5 of us outside of the chambers here. Welcome again. Look forward to working with you.
Congratulations on your housing, by the way.
Is that it? No more? This meeting's adjourned at
8 o'clock.
8:01.
So apparently this new chair is going to ignore the gavel.
I was gonna say, do you want to pound?
I don't need the gavel.
It's your choice. You're in charge.
Got man voice.
We're glad you're serving.